One of the things that makes Saw stand out from the competition is its inventive traps made by the ruthless Jigsaw. Sure, there are films that dish out equal amounts of gore and torture, but this 9-film series truly shines when it shows how inventive and painful these machines can be. Being a horror movie, it is natural to have a high body count, as the series is known for the buckets of blood it has spilled and limbs flying everywhere. But throughout the franchise, there are actually a lucky few who manage to survive Jigsaw's games, whether through pure determination or even blind luck. So, with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 Saw characters who beat the traps and survived. Number 10. Xavier in Saw 2. Xavier Chavez is the tertiary antagonist of Saw 2 and was one of the people placed in Jigsaw's trap at a rundown home. Living his life as a drug dealer, this burly man didn't shy away from his criminal nature, which was best seen during the test meant for him. As Jigsaw always delivers poetic justice for his would-be victims, Xavier was tasked to find the key in a pit of used syringes. Finding the object would allow him to get the antidote he needed, as a deadly gas was spread across the area. But the criminal had no plans of getting himself hurt, and in a ruthless act, he decided to grab Amanda Young and threw her in the pit, ordering her to get the key to his antidote. Karma would quickly get to the villain, however, as despite her best efforts, Amanda did not find the key in time to get the antidote. Still, Xavier managed to get away scratch-free with such ruthless tactics, so it's still a win for him. The character would even show the lengths he'd go to for survival later on, as he'd slice a piece of his neck to get one of the numbers for a safe combination. Number 9. Judge Holden in Saw 3. In Saw 3, grieving father Jeff Denlon becomes the subject of Jigsaw's plans as he makes Jeff confront the people directly and indirectly responsible for the death of his son. One of them is Judge Holden, who gave a light sentence to the drunk driver who accidentally killed the young boy. In one of the series' grossest traps ever, and with minimal gore, the man is chained to a pit. But this is no ordinary pit, as the place starts moving rotten carcasses of pigs into a grinder. This oozes out gallons of stinking pork fat, which aims to drown Holden. His chance of survival then lies with Jeff, who has to burn his son's memorabilia to get the key needed to free the would-be victim. While he initially chastises the man and has second thoughts, Denlon eventually makes the moral decision and burns the items, allowing him to free the judge. Sadly, Holden would eventually be killed in an accident after trying to free a man, though had he survived Saw 3, he probably would have had to live with the smell of rotten pigs for the rest of his life. Number 8. Art in Saw 4. The Saw sequels often start with the opening sequence showcasing an inventive trap. The fourth movie starts off in a mausoleum where two men are chained to a winch, with both having one of their senses stitched closed. Trevor with his eyes and Art with his lips. As the winch activates, the two are slowly pulled into it, with both at risk of breaking their necks. Surviving, however, means obtaining the key to their restraints, which is found in the opposite man, meaning Art can free himself by getting the key from Trevor and vice versa. The pair fail to overcome their communication barrier, as working together would have saved them both. Instead, the two start fighting one another. Though Trevor may be the bigger man, Art manages to survive the events by grabbing a nearby hammer and smashing the former's head numerous times. He then rips off the stitches as he yells in pain when we cut to the main titles. Against a physically more capable opponent, Art managed to overcome his odds, but he would later be forced to help Jigsaw with his new plans. Number 7. Detective Matthews in Saw 3. At the end of Saw 2, Detective Eric Matthews was shackled in the bathroom trap like Dr. Gordon and Adam before him. Finding the hacksaw from the original, he tried cutting his chains but quickly realised that he had to cut off his leg in order to escape. Avoiding a repeat of the first film, the cop finds the broken toilet lid inside the room and instead uses that to free himself. But in exchange for the loss of limbs, Matthews is forced to crush his foot with the object as he screams in pain. His plan works and he manages to free himself from his chains, sparing him from the blood loss but at the cost of a broken leg. Unfortunately, Eric's few minutes is cut short as he encounters Amanda Young, Jigsaw's apprentice, where he is nearly killed. At the verge of death, he is then healed by Jigsaw and placed in a new trap for Saw 4. Number 6. Shotgun Carousel survivors in Saw 6. In an effort to tackle the health insurance industry, Saw 6 deals with a man named William Easton, who owns an insurance company. Responsible for denying numerous sick people, including John Kramer, Easton is placed in a series of tests where he has to decide the fate of his employees. In the shotgun carousel trap, Easton discovers his 6 most valued assistants who are in charge of reviewing the policies. In a cruel twist of fate, Jigsaw challenges the man to use his formula and determine which among the 6 deserves to survive, as only 2 can make it out alive. To do this, Easton has to harm himself enough to stop the machine from shooting one of the assistants. Doing so would stop the shotgun from firing, but this process could only be done twice. As the trap starts, the 6 plead for their lives as they try their best to convince their boss which among them deserves to live. By the end of the sequence, only Emily and Shelby survived the deadly game, while William proceeded with his next test. Number 5. Dr. Gordon in Saw. Dr. Lawrence Gordon is the main protagonist of the original Saw. The original film has him, along with Adam, trapped in a bathroom where they're chained to the area. As the night progresses, the two get into more trouble, with Gordon discovering that a man named Zepp has captured his wife and daughter. Receiving a call from his wife, the doctor is distressed upon hearing gunshots from the phone. With it out of reach, Lawrence made the hard sacrifice, using his shirt as a tourniquet and grabbing the hacksaw. In the film's iconic sequence, Gordon uses the saw to cut his foot in order to free himself from his chains. Despite the minimal gore from the first film, this remains one of the most intense sequences in the franchise. Despite risking blood loss, the Doctor would find the strength to leave the room, and he'd promise Adam he'd get help. Saw 3D would even return to this moment and showed that, in order to stop himself from bleeding out, Gordon cauterized his stump with a hot pipe. Number 4. Detective Hoffman in Saw 6. By Saw 3, John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, was finally dead, which left the question of how the franchise would continue. The answer came in the form of Detective Mark Hoffman, the man who would continue Jigsaw's deadly legacy. But unlike his predecessor, the cop did not mind killing people who didn't deserve it. To save his own hide, he killed numerous people and even framed an FBI agent for his crimes. But Kramer was a man with foresight, and realizing the danger Hoffman posed, John asked his ex-wife Jill Tuck to perform one last duty for him. The woman captured the detective and placed him in the iconic reverse bear trap. Unlike the previous iteration, however, the victim had no means of escape as Jill left Mark for dead. The detective would then use the device to cut himself free from his restraints. Then he jammed the bear trap in between 2 metal bars to prevent it from opening completely. Finally, to free himself, he forcibly ripped his mouth off the object, which disfigured him but allows him to live to kill another day. Number 3. Malik and Brit in Saw 5. Malik Scott and Brit Stevenson were 2 people involved in an apartment burning. The latter hired the former to burn the building, but he accidentally killed 8 people in the process. This put them in Jigsaw's sights, and the 2, as well as 3 other people involved, become part of Saw 5's series of tests. By the end of the film, Malik and Brit were the last 2 standing. For their last trap, they find a device with spinning saw blades connecting to a beaker. The challenge is for the 2 of them to fill the container with enough blood by cutting themselves with the machine. Had the 5 of them made it through the trials, their injuries would have been minor, but with only the 2 of them left, it becomes a problem. However, the duo do their best, with each getting horribly mutilated in order to fill the beaker. Poor Malik even ends up having his forearm split in half due to the extensive injuries. But alas, the 2 managed to survive the trap despite how fatal the blood loss would be in real life. Number 2. Agent Strom in Saw 5. Saw 4 introduced Agent Peter Strom, who was investigating Jigsaw's numerous murders. By the end of the film, he was trapped by Detective Hoffman inside Gideon's meatpacking plant. Saw 5 then opens with the agent finding a secret passage and, despite being warned not to proceed, did so, which leads to his capture. Strom then wakes up and finds himself in the head box. The device has tubes of water pouring in which, once the box becomes full, will drown the agent. But in one of the smartest decisions, not only in the Saw franchise but in horror movie history, our protagonist gets his pen and performs a makeshift tracheotomy. This allows him to sustain his breathing even with the box full of water, and he survives Hoffman's trap. Kudos to the character for his quick thinking, despite not being given the tools for his salvation. True to Saw's formula, Strom physically maimed himself in order to survive one of Jigsaw's tests. It's a shame then that Strom would not survive the film, as Hoffman eventually lured him into the trash compactor. Number 1. Amanda Young in Saw. The reverse bear trap is the sequence that started it all. Initially debuting in the short film Saw, it was then recreated during the feature-length 2004 film. As Jigsaw survivor Amanda Young recounts her story, we then cut to a flashback where she is placed into a contraption. As the video inside the room explains, the machine has a 60-second timer that, once it runs out, will activate the device and forcibly open her jaw wide open. To survive, Amanda has to get the key from her dead cellmate. Young moves forward, which activates the timer, beginning the countdown to her imminent death. She successfully frees herself from her chair, but before she can cut her cellmate, the man turns out only to be heavily sedated. Amanda, however, would choose life and stab the man repeatedly, opening his stomach to get the key to freedom. And with just enough seconds remaining, the woman opened the device just in time, before it could have killed her, all as Billy the puppet congratulates her on a job well done. The scene then cuts back to the present, where Amanda tells the police how Jigsaw's actions helped her overcome her addiction. And that concludes our list. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter to follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.